Amani woke up before sunrise, her heart full of excitement. It was supposed to be the biggest day of her life, her first day at Umoja University, the school she had dreamed about since she was 12. She ironed her clothes, packed her notebook, and even rehearsed how she would introduce herself in class. For the first time, she felt her future was finally beginning. But everything changed when she heard her parents call her downstairs. Mama Rahima and Baba Juma were sitting on the sofa, too calm, almost cold. Amani smiled nervously, waiting for them to say something encouraging. Instead, Baba Juma folded his hands and said in a quiet voice, "Amani, we've changed the plan." Her smile faded. Mama Rahima continued, "Your sister Leora will take your place at Umoja University." Amani blinked, confused. "What do you mean? My place? My admission?" Baba Juma didn't even look guilty. "You're being sent to military school in Bukavu. It will make you disciplined." The words hit her like a slap. Her throat tightened but no sound came out. She had worked for years, studied late into the night, prayed, hoped, and now it was gone in one moment. Leora stepped forward, wearing a brand new university backpack, and smirked. "It's better for the family," she said, as if Amani's entire future was something she could casually replace. Amani felt her world collapse. The home she trusted had just betrayed her, and the people she loved had chosen her sister's dreams over her own. She stood there frozen, realizing this was the day her life would break and begin again. Amani grew up watching the same story repeat itself again and again, Leora shining in the center of the room, and her standing somewhere in the background, unseen. Even as a little girl, she noticed how every smile, every compliment, every bit of attention in the house naturally drifted toward Leora, like her sister was born with a spotlight attached to her. On Leora's birthdays, the house transformed. There were balloons, a big cake, music, guests, and gifts stacked higher than the table. Amani helped carry trays, wash dishes, sweep floors, and smile politely at people who didn't even remember her name. When Amani's birthday came, it was treated like an ordinary day. Sometimes Mama Rahima would make her a small cupcake, sometimes not. There were no songs, no guests, just chores waiting for her. Whenever something went wrong, the blame followed Amani like a shadow. If Leora broke a plate, Mama Rahima would sigh, "Amani, why weren't you watching your sister?" If Leora failed a test, Baba Juma would scold Amani for being a bad example. And if Amani ever defended herself, her parents' eyes would harden, as if speaking up was a crime. But outside the house, people saw what her parents refused to see. Neighbors often whispered kindly to her, "Amani is the strong one. She will survive anything." First, those words made her proud. She thought strength was a blessing. She thought it meant she was special. But slowly, painfully, she began to understand the truth. Her parents didn't treat her like she was strong. They treated her like she didn't need love. They treated her like she didn't need rest, or comfort, or celebration. Strength became the excuse for why she got less, why she was expected to carry more, why she had to swallow every hurt in silence. Leora, the golden girl, could do anything and still be forgiven. Amani could do everything right and still be overlooked. No matter how hard she worked, no matter how kind she was, no matter how much she tried, she was the daughter they didn't choose. And even though she was just a child, Amani felt a deep ache settle inside her. She wondered if anyone would ever look at her with the same softness her parents saved only for Leora. She wondered if being strong was supposed to hurt this much. It was the first lesson life taught her. Some people love you only for what you can endure, not for who you are. The morning Amani was forced to leave felt unreal, like she had stepped into someone else's nightmare. She stood in her room, numb, while Baba Juma walked in without knocking. He didn't ask her to pack. He didn't give her time. He grabbed her clothes, random pieces, mismatched items, and shoved them into a small worn-out bag as if her whole life could be stuffed into something so tiny. "Amani, this is for your own good," he said sharply, not looking at her. "Military school will fix your attitude." Attitude. She had spent her life obeying, helping, sacrificing. But now they were acting like she was the problem. Amani opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came out. Her throat was tight, her heart even tighter. It felt like she was watching her childhood being thrown into that bag, Every dream, every hope, every moment she believed she mattered. Mama Rehema stood in the doorway, arms crossed, eyes cold. She didn't argue, didn't comfort, didn't question the decision. She just watched her daughter crumble. Within an hour, Amani found herself outside the house, clutching the small bag. A bus waited on the dusty road. Baba Juma handed the driver some money and said without emotion, "Take her to Bukavu." Leora, of course, stood at the gate with her phone already recording. She tilted her head and smiled a little too wide, as if this was entertainment. "Wave goodbye," Leora said mockingly. "The house will finally be peaceful." Amani didn't wave. She couldn't. She stepped onto the bus with shaking hands. The moment she sat down, something inside her cracked open. The door shut, and the bus rolled away from everything she knew. She pressed her forehead to the window. Tears fell, but quietly, like she was trained to never make noise even when she was breaking. Through the blurry glass, she saw Leora still filming, smiling like she had won something. Minutes later, Amani's phone buzzed. A notification. Leora had already posted the video. The caption burned into her chest. "Finally, peace at home." Amani closed her eyes, letting more tears fall. She felt unwanted, abandoned, thrown away like she was the problem they needed to get rid of. Her heart ached in a way she couldn't describe. She wondered how her own family could send her away so easily, without love, without regret. But somewhere deep inside, under the pain, under the humiliation, another feeling quietly formed. Seed. The kind that grows best in darkness. Amani's first morning at the Bukavu Military Academy felt like a slap to the soul. At 4:30 a.m., a whistle screamed through the dorm halls. She jumped out of bed, confused and half asleep, only to find Commander Zoya already waiting outside with a stopwatch in her hand and a face that did not know the word mercy. "Outside. Now." Her voice was thunder. Amani rushed out with the other recruits. Cold air hit her skin like ice. They had to run laps before the sun even touched the sky. Amani's legs burned. Her throat felt like fire. She tripped once and hit the ground hard, scraping her knee. Zoya didn't look at her with pity. "Get up. Pain is not an excuse here." The days were long, brutal mornings, endless drills, strict rules, and punishments for even the smallest mistakes. Amani's palms were bruised from doing push-ups on gravel. Her shoulders ached from carrying heavy gear. Some nights she cried silently into her pillow, missing home even though home hadn't loved her. But something strange happened after weeks of this. Her tears stopped, her fear faded, her body grew stronger, and her mind, sharper than ever. For the first time in her life, she wasn't the forgotten daughter. She wasn't the one blamed or ignored. Here she was just Amani, nothing more, nothing less. And that was enough. She started waking up before the whistle. She pushed herself harder than anyone else. She learned discipline, not the kind her parents forced on her, but the kind she chose for herself. She learned how to lead, how to speak with confidence, how to stay calm when everyone else panicked. The other recruits started looking up to her, following her, trusting her. One evening, after a long survival drill, Commander Zoya called her aside. Amani stood stiffly, expecting criticism. Instead, Zoya crossed her arms and studied her with a rare, approving nod. "You don't break easily," she said. "You bend, you bleed, but you don't break." Amani swallowed hard, her chest tight with emotions she hadn't felt in years. Zoya stepped closer. "You're not broken, Amani. You're becoming dangerous. In a good way." Those words hit deeper than any wound. No one had ever spoken to her like that, not with respect, not with belief. A few months later, Amani was chosen as captain of her squad. Standing in front of her team, wearing her uniform with pride, she felt something she had never felt before. Not fear, not sadness, not rejection. She felt powerful. And this was only the beginning. While Amani was waking up in the cold darkness of Bukavu, Leora was living the life Amani once dreamed of. Umoja University became her personal stage. Every week, Leora posted pictures. New outfits, fancy cafes, campus parties, selfies with friends who looked just as loud and carefree as she did. She showed off everything. The dorm room Amani had imagined living in, the books she barely read, the events she barely attended. Her captions were always the same. Living my best life. Umoja girl forever. Proud of myself. But behind those pictures, the loudest voices were their parents. Mama Rehema and Baba Juma bragged to anyone who would listen. Our daughter Leora is the pride of the family. She is studying at Umoja University, you know, the best school. She will go far. They never mentioned Amani. If anyone asked about her, Mama Rehema would simply say, she's in Bukavu, as if Amani were somewhere distant and unimportant, as if she didn't exist. Meanwhile, Amani was fighting a very different kind of battle. Her days were full of mud, sweat, and exhaustion. Training didn't stop for rainstorms or injuries. She learned to march through thunderstorms, to run with water dripping into her shoes, to sleep with aching muscles. Some nights, loneliness hit her like a punch. She wondered how her family could enjoy life while she was breaking her body to survive. But she didn't break. Slowly, something inside her started to shift. Each challenge made her tougher. Each storm made her braver. Each lonely night made her more determined. She was no longer the girl who cried quietly on the bus. She was becoming someone stronger, someone sharper, someone who didn't wait for applause or permission. One day, as she lifted her backpack after a long field exercise, she looked at her reflection in a metal window. She barely recognized herself, not because she was tired or bruised, but because she looked powerful. Her confidence grew. Her steps became sure. Her voice became steady. She didn't need anyone to choose her anymore. She was choosing herself now. And somewhere deep inside, she knew her journey was shaping her into something extraordinary, something a life of parties and pretty pictures could never create. Leora was becoming popular. But Amani was becoming unstoppable. And one day the whole world would see the difference. Amani's life changed on a quiet afternoon, completely unexpectedly. She had just finished a long training session and was wiping sweat from her forehead when Commander Zoya called her to the office. Amani thought she was about to be assigned more duties or maybe corrected for something she didn't know she did wrong. But instead, Zoya handed her a letter with the government's seal on it. "Open it," she said, her voice softer than usual. Amani's hands trembled as she tore it open. Her eyes moved over the words slowly at first, then faster, then stopped completely. She reread the lines, unable to breathe for a moment. She had been selected for a National Leadership Scholarship, one of the most competitive, most respected programs in the country. The government wanted to sponsor her to study international defense and strategy at the famous Accra Institute of Leadership, a school known for training some of Africa's top leaders and strategists. Amani blinked hard, wondering if she was imagining it. "Me," she whispered. Commander Zoya smiled, a rare, proud smile. "Yes, you earned it. And we're sponsoring the rest of your costs. You didn't just survive here, Amani. You rose. You led. You showed the kind of strength leaders are built from." Amani felt her chest lift with emotion she couldn't hide. She remembered the bus ride to Bukavu, the pain in her heart, the video Leora posted, the words, "Finally, peace at home." She remembered every bruise, every tough night, every moment she thought she'd disappear. But here she was, chosen, recognized, celebrated. The day she packed to leave military school was completely different from the day she arrived. Instead of a small bag stuffed with random clothes, she now had a proper suitcase. Instead of shame, she carried honor. Instead of tears, she held pride. The other trainees gathered to congratulate her. Some hugged her. Some told her she inspired them. Even the toughest commanders nodded at her with respect. As she boarded the plane to Accra, she looked out the window and felt something powerful wash over her. She wasn't running away from Bukavu. She wasn't escaping. She was rising, higher than anyone ever expected her to. Amani whispered to herself, "I am not who they thought I was." She wasn't the forgotten daughter anymore. She wasn't the sacrifice. She wasn't the problem. She was a leader now, and she was only getting started. Accra felt like a different world the moment Amani arrived. The streets were busy, the campus was beautiful, and everywhere she looked, she saw people chasing big dreams. For the first time in her life, she felt like she belonged somewhere that didn't judge her for being born second, somewhere that didn't compare her to anyone. She threw herself into her studies at the Accra Institute of Leadership. International defense and strategy wasn't easy. The classes were intense, the assignments heavy, and the pressure non-stop. But Amani surprised everyone, including herself. She understood complex policies faster than expected. She asked bold questions in class. She wrote essays that professors used as examples for other students. She wasn't just keeping up, she was leading. Her confidence grew with each semester. One day, during a community outreach project, she visited a rural village and met women who felt unsafe traveling to markets, schools, and clinics. Their stories stayed with her, especially one mother who said, "We don't ask for much, just to stay alive." Amani couldn't forget those words. She decided to create a safety program specifically for rural women. She worked day and night, building a strategy that combined community patrols, emergency hotlines, and self-defense training. When she presented it on campus, her classmates clapped. When she posted a short video explaining it, thousands of people shared it. Within a week, it went viral across Ghana, Tanzania, Kenya, Rwanda, everywhere. People started calling her brave, smart, different. But the biggest shock came when she received an official email from the president's office. They wanted to meet her. Amani walked into the government building with shaking hands but steady eyes. She presented her program, showed them data, and answered every question with confidence she built in Bukavu. 2 months later, she received another message. She had been selected as the youngest advisor on women's security and national strategy. She was only 22. The girl who was once sent away as a problem had become a national leader. Newspapers across Africa wrote about her. Headlines called her the Lioness of Bukavu, the girl they tried to bury, now a national voice. Amani Juma, strength turned into power. People admired her. Girls looked up to her. Mothers prayed for daughters like her. And Amani, she finally understood something deep and powerful. Her parents sent her away to break her. But life used that moment to build her. This was her rise. Loud, unstoppable, and unforgettable. While Amani was rising in Accra, Leora's perfect world at Umoja University was slowly falling apart, piece by piece, like a mirror cracking quietly before it finally shatters. First, no one noticed. Leora kept posting pictures of parties, outfits, and her amazing campus life. But behind the filters and captions, she was drowning. She missed classes. She failed quizzes. She never studied because she believed her parents' praise was enough to keep her floating. But university didn't care about beauty or family favoritism. It wanted hard work, something Leora had never been taught. One morning, she opened her exam results online. Her heart dropped. She scrolled up and down, hoping she was reading it wrong. She had failed almost everything. She froze. Her throat tightened. For the first time in a long time, she had no words to hide behind. She didn't want to tell her parents, so she tried to act normal. She still dressed up, still went out with friends, still posted pictures pretending life was perfect. But on the inside, fear was eating her alive. The truth hit harder a month later. She received an official university letter. "Your scholarship has been revoked due to academic failure." Her parents found out the same day. The house that once bragged loudly about Leora suddenly went silent. Mama Rahima screamed at her, demanding explanations. Baba Juma shouted about wasted money and family shame. For the first time, they didn't defend her. They didn't pamper her. They didn't call her our pride. They blamed her. "Do you know how much we sacrificed for you? You were supposed to lift this family. How could you fail like this?" Their voices echoed through the house late into the night. Neighbors heard everything. Leora cried until her eyes burned. She had no Amani to blame now. No one to hide behind. No one to steal the spotlight from. She had to face her own truth. She was never prepared for real life. Meanwhile, Amani was appearing in newspapers, speaking at conferences, winning awards. Her name was everywhere, while Leora's name was being whispered in embarrassment. Mama Rahima finally admitted one night, in a trembling voice, "We invested in the wrong daughter." Baba Juma sighed heavily, staring at the floor. We threw away the one who could have saved us. The words hit the family like a storm. Leora felt something she had never felt before. Regret so deep it hurt to breathe. All her life, she had been the golden girl. Now she was the shadow. And for the first time, she understood what Amani had lived with for years. Too late. When Amani stepped off the plane in Dar es Salaam, cameras flashed, reporters waited, and government cars were lined up to escort her. She had come to speak at an international security conference, something she never imagined in her wildest dreams. The girl who once left home in a shaky bus was now returning with honor, respect, and a name the whole country knew. But while the city celebrated her, her family was falling apart. The moment her parents heard she was staying at the Royal Palm Hotel, they rushed there like people running for their last chance at life. They didn't call. They didn't wait. They simply showed up at the lobby, out of breath, eyes red, clothes wrinkled from stress. When Amani walked in with her security team, she froze. Mama Rahima burst into tears instantly. "Amani, please. Please forgive us," she cried, clutching her husband's arm to stay standing. Baba Juma stepped forward, his voice shaking. "We were wrong. We made terrible mistakes. Your sister, she needs help. She's lost. Please help her get back on track." Felt unreal. These were the same people who once said she wasn't good enough. The same parents who packed her bag and sent her away. Now they were standing in front of her like broken glass. Leora stepped out from behind them slowly, her face swollen from crying and guilt. She tried to smile like old times, like nothing had happened. "Amani," she whispered, stepping forward. "You're successful now. Don't forget us. We're still your family." She reached out to hug her. Amani stepped back. The lobby went silent. Her parents looked confused, hurt, almost frightened. But Amani wasn't angry. She wasn't shouting. She wasn't crying. She was calm, painfully calm. The kind of calm that comes only from healing your wounds alone. She looked at them with quiet strength and said softly, "You exiled me to build her future, but you accidentally built mine." The words hit her parents like a punch to the chest. Mama Rahima covered her mouth, sobbing. Baba Juma lowered his head. Leora blinked in shock, realizing this moment wasn't going the way she expected. Amani continued, her voice steady. "I walked into that military school alone. I survived alone. I rose alone. And now that you see what I've become, you come back." She didn't say it with bitterness, just truth. Her security team gently guided her toward the elevator. Her parents called her name again and again. Leora begged her to stop, to talk, to come home. But Amani didn't turn back. For once in her life, she chose herself. And as the elevator doors closed, her parents finally understood the weight of their years of favoritism. They didn't just lose control. They lost the daughter who became everything they never believed she could be. Amani returned to Accra with a quiet heart and a clear mind. She didn't go back carrying anger. She went back carrying freedom. For the first time, she wasn't living for approval, for love, or for a family that never saw her. She was living for herself. Within months, she bought a beautiful home overlooking the city. It wasn't huge or flashy, but it was peaceful, felt like safety. It felt like a place built with her own scars, strength, and victories. Every room reminded her how far she had come. But she wanted more than personal success. She wanted to help girls who were once like her. Girls who were ignored. Girls denied dreams. Girls told they weren't enough. So she created the Amani Foundation, dedicated to providing education, mentorship, and leadership training to young women from rural areas. She visited villages, met families, listened to stories, and built programs that changed lives. Her work spread fast, and soon her story was everywhere. On news pages, social media, talk shows, and community events. Someone posted a quote she once said during a speech, and it went viral across Africa. "They tried to bury me, but they forgot I was a seed." People admired her strength. Girls sent her letters saying she inspired them. Mothers thanked her for giving their daughters hope. While she was building a new world for herself and others, her phone kept ringing. Mama Rahima, Baba Juma, Leora, day after day. Sometimes they called crying, sometimes apologizing, sometimes begging her to come home. But Amani didn't pick up. She had already lived that pain. She knew returning would only reopen wounds she had finally healed. One evening, she finally wrote a single message and sent it to their family group chat. "I don't hate you. I just love myself enough to stay far away." It was not anger. It was closure. She placed her phone down, stepped onto her balcony, and watched the city lights glow beneath her. The wind was soft, warm, and full of promise. For the first time she felt truly free. No guilt. No pressure. No comparisons. Just Amani, stronger, wiser, and finally valued. And as she walked into her new life, she knew one truth deeply. Losing her family didn't break her. It revealed who she was always meant to be.